The 1,000 Cuts Plague Build, a relentless gauntlet setup that turns you into a walking blender. Hit so fast, so consistent that regular enemies, elites, and even bosses get staggered while Plague Buildup tears through their health bars. And if you love fast playstyles, constant pressure, and watching bosses melt under a flurry of hits, and most importantly, if you hate parrying or blocking, this build is for you. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome back into the Wicked, and today we are unleashing a fast and nasty and really overwhelming melee build I've created in No Rest for the Wicked, the Breach Refined. Another thing I love about this setup is how satisfying it is to corner an enemy and just unleash the hands. The plague buildup spikes instantly, the stagger damage becomes non-stop, and thanks to your gauntlet enchantment, execute infected low health enemies on damage dealt. Infected enemies simply cease to exist, and they don't get back up. So, why did I make this build? I wanted to make a build that wasn't reliant on the rune attacks, cooldowns, or fancy cast loops. Just raw hands, pure aggression, like Mike Tyson. And gauntlets in this game have something special. When you build them right, the speed becomes a weapon of its own. You don't need rune attacks to shred enemies. The base attacks alone can create so much stagger and plague buildup that the fight is already over before even the abilities even become relevant. Once I realized I could combine plague scaling with high poise, lifesteal, and stamina cycling, it just all clicked. So what makes this build work and get it ticking? We are going to have the Ashen armor knight set as our armor, and then our weapon of choice, we are going to have the Gossamer gauntlets. This build as a whole is what's going to make the flurry of hits consistent and absolute damage peaked. But what really maximizes the plague identity of this build is when we put some elbow grease into getting the Ashen Knight claws to plague rarity. And trust me, it was worth every try because these claws help the Gossamer gauntlets hit insanely fast. But not only that, they build plague and stagger at a pace most weapons have a trouble matching with. And once that infection kicks in, the real magic happens. These gloves come with one of the strongest enchantments in the entire game, with execute infected low health enemies on damage dealt. This enchantment is the heart of the 1,000 Cuts place. So now you guys have the overview. Let's dive into the details. First and foremost, we have our Gossamer gauntlets, which are exalted. These are the fists that drive the build. Your primary source of the damage, plague application, sustain, and speed. For gem, we're going to be rocking lifesteal plus 10, huge for survivability. Enchantments, we're going to have plus 30 damage versus large enemies. Your boss melter, plague damage infusion, converts all damage to plague, letting the entire build revolve around infection. And next, we're going to have our plus 15 focus on kill, plus 10 health on kill, and lastly, plus 20 attack stamina cost. A drawback, but completely negated by your armor stamina reduction gems. With these enchantments, your gauntlets become a plague chainsaw. Fast hits, constant healing, and guaranteed execution pressure once enemies are infected. And also a side note that I started to figure out when using this weapon, the stagger application as well is insane. I've never experienced just any weapon in this game so far that has the amount of stagger capability, but these gauntlets hit it. Now moving forward to our armor set, we are going to first have our masterwork Ashen Knight set, and that is going to be the Knight Mask. We have 4 gems equipped. We're going to have infection buildup plus 15, plus 10 healing, minus 5 to fizz damage taken, plus 12 to stamina recovery. This helmet gives you both some offensive momentum and defensive stability, more plague, more healing, more stamina, less incoming damage. We all love that. Next, we're going to have our chest piece. We're going to have plus 15 max health, 15 to healing, plus 6 to focus gain, and minus 6 to that stamina cost. That chest piece boosts your health pool, improves all sources of healing, and reduces stamina costs. Perfect synergy for non-stop gauntlet pressure. And last of that masterwork trio, we're going to have the Ashen Knight Greaves, plus 10 to healing, minus 10 stamina cost, plus 12 stamina recovery, and plus 6 focus. But there is one part of this armor set that I did make an effort to enchant to Plague rarity, and that is our Ashen Knight claws. These gloves are the heart of the build, the Plague engine, the execution trigger. We're gonna have a gem at 15 infection buildup. Our enchantments, this is the bread and butter for every Plague build in my opinion. Execute infected low health enemies on damage dealt, 20 plus 20 infection buildup, plus 15 focus gain. And then this last one, I I invested a lot of embers into this one. Gain plus 15 health on staggering an enemy. Perfect for the Gossamer Gauntlets since you stagger constantly. And the great thing about that is if you don't stagger, your plague buildup is probably going to kill them. If you don't have enough infection buildup, the stagger damage is going to give you plenty of time just to chop them up. But the last piece of this build is minus 18 max focus, which is completely manageable since you barely rely on the runes. I only use it for just health in general. So again, this is your execution engine, the piece that turns all your fast hits into that guaranteed finish. Because the gauntlets hit so rapid, the stagger happens frequently, and the execute enchant deletes anything on the brink of death. It just wraps it up nicely. So now we're going to talk about the rings. First and foremost, we're going to have the Willow Cap ring, which is obviously 15 overall speed, simple and perfect. This ring boosts everything you do, attack startup, movement, making your gauntlets feel super fast. It turns pressure into constant rhythm your enemies just can't escape. Next, we're going to have our Jade ring. Enough said here, plus 6 stamina on damage dealt. And then lastly, Ring of Broken Promise, plus 20 damage dealt. Optional, but amazing. You deal more damage, but technically take more too. The twist is that enemies rarely get a chance to hit you. Because between stagger locking, the plague, and healing on stagger, this ring becomes pure value. I don't see any negating effects from this ring. And so that is what completes this trio. So furthermore, now the question is, well, what's the playstyle? Well, this build is all about trusting your armor, trusting your poise, and committing to the pressure. The 1000 Cuts Plague build is made for players who haven't fully mastered parrying, or perfect dodging yet, or honestly, just players who don't enjoy that defensive playstyle. You're meant to get up close and personal with these gauntlets. The goal is simple. Stay on top of your enemy and unload hits until one of these two things are going to happen. The Plague Buildup spikes and the Execute enchantment instantly deletes them at low health, or you stagger them through raw speed and pressure and the Plague finishes the job right after. Either way, the moment you commit, the fight starts snowballing in your favor. Because of the Gauntlet's natural attack speed and your Plague scaling, you'll find yourself chaining hit after hit without giving enemies room to breathe. And the more aggressive you are, the safer you actually become, since they can't swing if they're constantly flinching or melting from infection. Now you might have noticed I didn't go over any rune attacks in this build, and that is intentional. The setup does not need runes to function. The core of this build is your raw attack speed, the armor, and plague procs. But if you want some range options or utility, feel free to slot in whatever rune you see fit. They're purely optional, not required. In short, this playstyle is relentless, confident, and incredibly satisfying. You're not waiting for openings, you are just creating them constantly. But that's the 1000 Cuts Plague build in a nutshell. Fast, armor-backed setup that lets you overwhelm enemies with pure pressure, non-stop stagger, and devastating plague procs. If you love the aggressive playstyle, hate parrying, blocking, or just want to delete enemies before they even get a chance to fight back, this build is going to feel amazing. But that being said, this has been Into the Wicked. If you're into builds, guides, and deep dives on No Rest for the Wicked, The Breach Refined, I got you covered. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. I really do, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!